Hello everyone, this is live coverage from theCUBE here at the QAD Red Zone Champions of Manufacturing Conference in Arlington, Texas. I'm Scott Hebner and I'm here with Paul Gillin, my colleague, and we have a full day of interviews for you today. And Paul, it's really great to see you again.
Hi Scott, it's a pleasure.
We'll be giving you a whole series of interviews with some of the top leaders and a few customers as we go through the day here. But Paul and I just left the keynote, which
Right.
I thought was a very interesting and hard-hitting keynote, very clear.
Not like most keynotes. It started out with sort of the rah-rah that you usually get, but we've got a new CEO at this company, Sanjay Brahmawar, who came over from Software AG 6 months ago, or I guess even shorter than that, and is turning the company upside down, or that's how he terms it.
Yeah, he was very clear, very precise in the messaging today, I thought, and we'll talk a little bit about what he said and what I think the strategy is going forward here. But he definitely has the right background to lead this company. Like you mentioned, Software AG. He also spent, I think it was 14 years, maybe 16 years, a good amount of time at IBM, and he was in this industry, right? And he also was involved in IBM's AI work, and particularly the Internet of Things part of it, not too long ago. So he brings a lot of really great background to help lead the company.
And an interesting career trajectory. He went from IBM, of course, multi-billion-dollar company, to Software AG, which he built to about $1 billion, and now to QAD, which is around $350 million. So a much smaller company, but obviously sees a lot of upside in this manufacturing market, and manufacturing is an area that is tended to be marginalized by the big software companies. QAD solely focused on manufacturing, and seeing this as maybe the dawn of a new age with the potential for agentic AI to influence nearly everything on the factory floor.
You know, the last time you and I were together was back, I think, in May at the SaaS conference, which was more of a horizontal type company, and we heard a lot about agentic AI and decision intelligence and all that. Like you said, this is very vertical and around manufacturing. And we recently ran a agentic AI futures index survey, and in manufacturing companies, 61% of them saw digital labor as inevitable as a way to give their workers new superpowers. Not to replace them, but to give them new superpowers to do more. So 61% see this as, you know, the rise of digital labor as the future, and I think we saw some of that today and where, you know, Sanjay wants to kind of bring them.
And really reflecting a mind shift, I think, in manufacturing. Of course, manufacturing, the industry is not new to technology. I mean, manufacturing resource planning predates ERP in many ways. Manufacturers were automating the factory floor back in the 70s, but really the focus turned to robotics over the last 20 years or so, to taking humans out of the loop. Maybe we're reaching the end of the productivity curve in that area, and they're seeing that the real bump can come from making people on the assembly line, and people who are supervising them, and people who are managing the scheduling and the supply chain, from using agents to multiply their productivity. That clearly was the message we heard this morning.
Yeah, no, he really drove home the thought, which I believe 100% in, by the way. There's a lot of talk in the industry about everyone's going to lose their jobs and all that kind of stuff. The analysis I've been doing, and I've been doing a lot on sort of the effect of digital labor, is I think it's going to be a net growth in jobs 5 years from now.
That's curious. Why do you think that?
I think there's going to be a dip in more automated, the type of jobs that are more about automating things, but I think it's going to have a jump in the more strategic type of jobs, I guess jobs that are better known as knowledge workers, because they're going to be able to do more, and it's going to kick off new professions and things of that nature. So the work I've been doing, and I've also been reading about 8 or so different studies from different organizations, and I think it's going to, that growth in knowledge worker type jobs is going to outpace the decline in the more automation related type of jobs. Now right now I think there's a dip, but I think it's going to stabilize and go back up. And Sanjay was very clear that his vision is that this is not about replacing people in manufacturing jobs. It's about giving them new superpowers, you know, new skills to be creative, innovative, get things done faster, higher quality, make better decisions. He was very clear on that, and I think that's the right way to think about it. If you're going to take, you know, agents and replace people to save money, that could be a strategic mistake because you really should be taking those savings, at least the majority of it, and reinvesting in the growth of the future, which are these knowledge-based jobs.
Well, that's what the CEOs are all saying now, but the reality of what we're seeing is Amazon just laid off 14,000 people, Microsoft going through layoffs, Accenture, the UPS. I mean, we're seeing large-scale layoffs going on right now, companies that say that AI is a factor in their decisions. Do you think that's a short-term phenomenon?
I do, and I think it's mostly technology companies, and I still think there was a bubble during the COVID days of hiring, to get through all that. But we'll see. I mean, I think what the vision is that it's going to complement people rather than replace them, and I think they laid out a pretty clear roadmap during the keynote. Right? It started with Red Zone, which is their heritage, based ERP system. Right? So they have a great base to build off of. And then from there they built and talked about adaptive ERP, which is when you start to infuse the AI and the agents. Then they had Champion AI, which is more about individual agents tuned to the personality and the specific domain that a worker has to help them make better decisions. And then they had Champion Pace, which is about the assessment and how do you speed the deployment of all this and get it all working. And I thought it was a very clear roadmap in how this all comes together, and clearly an agentic AI agenda.
Clearly defined. We're going to be digging in today into what kinds of roles, what kinds of jobs are going to be affected. So there is I think a conventional wisdom is that manufacturing is a lot about hourly line workers. And the fact is many of those jobs have been automated out of existence or they've gone overseas. A lot of the human capital that's left in manufacturing now is in a more strategic role. And there is room for productivity improvements in all of the different stages of manufacturing, from supply chain down to delivery, packaging and delivery, room for improvement in all those areas. I think the message that came across also this morning was speed. This is all about speed. And right. Sanjay talked about 90 days to implementation for a greenfield mid-sized manufacturer. That's light speed in this world. So we'll be wanting to see what they're doing to make that kind of turnaround possible, because companies that can do that are clearly going to gain a competitive edge.
Yeah, and I think there were two sides to the coin on the message. One was, as you said, speed. You got to move quickly these days. You can't take years to roll out new ERP capabilities and all that. I think the other side of the coin was helping the people on the factory floor make better decisions, make better judgments. And to me, that's a creativity, it's an innovation, it's sort of a quality statement when people can make better decisions. And as I was referencing the agentic AI Futures Index, the survey that we did, 65% of manufacturers do plan over the next 18 months to infuse more AI reasoning and decision intelligence into their workflows. And so they had the speed and automation side of it, right, and the adaptability of the whole ERP system, complemented by the decision intelligence on the other side. And I thought it was a good mix and a good story on how it came across.
Do you get a sense of where the bottlenecks are in manufacturing? What are the most common bottlenecks we see?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, I think we're going to have a bunch of guests today to help us kind of understand that. Yep. But the message I got, and from what I know manufacturing, it really is the rigid systems they have, the inability to adapt, and therefore you can't adapt quickly to new changes in the market, new product designs, things of that nature. It just takes more time. And there's also, when it's all about automation on the floor and not the ability to make good decisions, that also slows things down. So I think it's more than just streamlining it. I think it's also about just doing things better with better problem solving, better decision making.
And also, they need to address the problem of doing upgrades and doing migrations while keeping the assembly line running, because manufacturing is a low margin business in most cases. Downtime is unacceptable. The cost is measured in millions of dollars per hour. And if you're talking about major upgrades to your systems, the risks of doing that while keeping the lights on and the machines running could be existential threats for some of these companies.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, and I can tell you just from all the engagements I've had and the work I've been doing over the last year since I've been at theCUBE Research, is manufacturing is definitely one of the top industries in terms of AI adoption. And I think it's because they need to be more adaptive, and They need to make better decisions quicker, and I think it's a great industry to keep an eye on to see where this all heads. And like you were mentioning before, it's also going to fuse into the world of robotics and IoT.
Yeah.
And this is, QAD is a company that can help everyone do that. So.
Yeah, manufacturing is a technology-driven industry. You go all the way back to Kanban and to supply chain automation and MRP systems. And robotics. This is an industry that has embraced technology aggressively, and they should be well primed to go the next step with agentic.
Yeah. All right, well, we have a bunch of really great guests today, so we're going to, by the time we leave today, we're going to be a lot more educated on all this, and I think there's going to be some really interesting things to talk about. And for all of you, thanks so much for watching us. This is theCUBE live at the QAD Red Zone Champions of Manufacturing conference down here in Arlington, and we'll be right back after a short break.